Joining us now are three of the highest-ranking Republicans in the House and three men sure to influence U.S. policy toward China if Republicans retake the House this fall. The ranking members on the committees on Intelligence and Foreign Affairs and Armed Services, Mike Turner, Mike McCaul, and Mike Rogers. It's a real pleasure to have all three of you. So let's start by giving the viewers some insight. What is the proper way for the United States to view China in present terms and in future with respect to future risk? And let's start with the military side of things, Congressman Rogers.
Yeah. Well, the thing that we've got to keep in mind is that China has global aspirations. Their Belt and Road Initiative is a 50-year initiative to become both an economic and a military superpower. And we've got to recognize that as our pacing threat. While we've got to be concerned about what's happening in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, the most dominant threat that we have to our national interest is China. And we've got to be focused on that. That's why we're making a real pivot in this year's National Defense Authorization Act, the defense bill, toward the Indo-PACOM domain to make sure that we're prepared to take on aggression from China, which has become more menacing lately with the threat on Taiwan.
Congressman Mike Turner, you may very well be the next chair of the House Intel Committee. May happen in a few months. Are we, in your judgment, properly anticipating or addressing what China is currently doing while also protecting our own interests?
No, this administration has been very slow on the uptake to identify that, adversaries self-select. China has identified itself as an adversary. The administration has gone out of its way actually to dismantle things that were in place to try to hold China accountable. If you look in the Department of Justice, there was the China initiative that was focusing on trying to find nefarious activities that China was doing, both cyber and otherwise, within the United States. The administration took it down, saying that they were afraid it was profiling. I mean, it was profiling an adversary. Then you have, of course, the FBI director joining with their Brit counterparts, saying that there's an extreme cyber threat, and in the internet world, China is a leader in both in nefarious activities. We need to rise to these areas, and right now the administration is not only not recognizing it, it's even reining in some of the things that we were doing that were important.
Congressman McCaul, you recently addressed our defense industrial base. Why is that of concern to you?
Well, first of all, when you project weakness, you invite aggression. We know President Xi has plans for Taiwan. I signed off on all foreign military weapon sales. For the past 3 years, they have not gone into Taiwan. If we want to have deterrence against the Chinese Communist Party from invading Taiwan, we need to provide the weapon systems to Taiwan. And the problem is the defense industrial base is not prepared to get this done. I just recently met with the head of CENTCOM, the commander, who and the former one, McKenzie, told me, both of them, that foreign military sales are the #1 problem right now. If we can't build these weapons, and this involves both Defense Department, State Department, Congress, and defense contractors, we can't backfill with Eastern NATO flank. My sales to Taiwan have been denied for 3 years. This administration has not gotten them out the door, and that projects weakness. It will invite aggression.
Congressman Rogers, there was talk during the pandemic of the U.S. being less dependent on other countries for goods and services. In your judgment, are we or have we met the challenge of being more self-reliant?
Unfortunately not. And that's not the biggest threat to me. The biggest threat is we still haven't gotten China out of our supply chain. We have made it a goal that we expect to have them out within the next couple of years. But I think if the pandemic taught us anything, meaning the Western world, that all of us have allowed ourselves lazily to become dependent on China for far too much in our lives, and that's got to be changed. And we're making steps in that direction. But you make a great point about us being self-supportive. We've got to recognize that being able to feed and clothe ourselves in this country is a matter of national security, and we can't depend on other countries to be able to help us do that, militarily or otherwise.
Congressman Turner, you referenced the China initiative in the Department of Justice. How, I mean, you were a really good lawyer before you got to Congress. I guess you're still a really good lawyer, but how can the Biden administration square referring to China as a threat while canceling programs that are designed to treat China as a threat? I mean, I try to see both sides of the issue, but how can you say they're a threat and then cancel a program that was treating them as a threat?
It doesn't make any sense, Trey, and I think it sends, as Representative McCaul was saying, the wrong signal. What it shows is our retraction instead of our leaning in. And you can see this also on the military side. China is being very aggressive in militarizing space. You get an announcement from the administration that we're not going to do anti-satellite weapons. There's concern as to whether or not they're even going to make further announcements in restricting our nuclear weapons programs at the same time while China is vastly expanding its nuclear weapons programs. And as you know, China has taken advances in hypersonics weapons beyond what we're even doing, and the administration has not come to the table and said this is how we're going to set the bar higher and what we're going to achieve to make certain we can stay safe. So it's not just they're not identifying the problem and the concern that is there, that is real. It's that they seem to be going in the opposite direction, and that's what needs to be changed.
Congressman McCaul, China is seeking to expand its influence really worldwide, as y'all have noted, but in particular in Africa and Latin America. Does the United States have a plan to combat the Chinese influence campaign in those regions or other regions?
Trey, we have to compete with China in Africa, in Latin America, and I would say we're losing. The Belt and Road Initiative, they've been doing this for years, and we're trying to catch up to it. But the fact that 20 African nations abstained from the UN Security Council resolution on the Russia-Ukraine war shows you that China has a grip on those African nations. And they go in and they have a debt trap that they get them into. Then they build a port or a military base. And they're doing this all over the continents. And they get them on the digital yuan and tell them that they can't support Taiwan. I would also like to add on to my colleague Mike Rogers' point that supply chain is critically important. When I chair the China Task Force, whether it be medical, rare earth mineral, semiconductor chips, Taiwan manufactures 90% of the advanced semiconductor chips in the world. If China invades Taiwan tomorrow, think about that disastrous situation.
Well, I want to thank all three of you. Thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday night, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thanks for being with you.